Okay, now that we've talked about the self-talk theory, and not negating, but recognizing, feeling, and then replacing, I want to talk a little bit about positivity. Now, at the time that I'm recording this, this has been around for a little bit of time, this idea of toxic positivity, right? And I'm not going to say that this isn't a thing. Of course, it is a thing. We have the people who are the no bad vibes people. They only want good vibes. Take your bad energy and go somewhere else with it. And it often seems like they are negating the negative. They only want to think about positivity. But the truth of the matter is that obviously there's a lot of negativity to life. Suffering exists. This is a core tenet of Buddhism, is that suffering exists and you can't really do anything about it. Now that's not completely true. The idea is that it's our attachment and aversion to stimulus and the outside world and inside world that causes suffering. But pain, at least, exists. And negative aspects of life does exist. And completely negating that is toxic, right? And we don't want to do that because you're forcing down feelings that are very natural feelings. And it's okay to feel negative emotions, right? And it's very important, even within a meditative sphere. It's not about feeling no emotions. It's actually about feeling your emotions, but not necessarily getting attached, like putting your identity into your emotion. You know, we often associate our identity with certain things like this. I'm just a very positive person. Or, you know, people can get attached to ideas of like depression, or I'm a very sad, kind of melancholic person, right? Or I'm just an angry guy, or I'm just an angry person, right? But really, these things are emotions. And if I'm remembering this correctly, I think there was actually studies that show that like the chemical response of emotion, so the thing that actually makes us feel emotion, actually only lasts about 90 seconds. Right? So the actual emotion of like fear, anger, excitement, whatever else, the chemical response of that lasts 90 seconds. And then after that, our mind and our subconscious or what have you, completely just forms a narrative around it and continues to re-stimulate that emotion, right? So there's this idea in meditation that when you feel an emotion, stop and feel it totally. Feel it completely. Don't get attached to the narrative, why you're feeling angry, why you're feeling excited, why you're feeling that. But feel it fully. Because there's this idea that everything changes, right? So everything is in ebb and flow. So even if you're feeling happy, the happiness will at some point subside. If you're feeling angry, the anger will probably subside, especially if we're just talking about emotions. But then when we get attached to the emotion, we form a narrative around it, we can continue to stew in it. And this is often what happens. But we don't want to negate the emotion. If we're feeling anger, we don't want to push it down. We don't want to say no bad vibes. We want to acknowledge it, feel it. And then once the emotion has subsided, then we can ask ourselves, do I have to act on this in a specific way, or can I act on it in a different way? Okay, but that being said, positivity itself, not as a rule, but we can hold positivity when we are trying to speak with ourselves while acknowledging some things, right? I'm still learning, yes. I'm struggling with these things, or when I'm playing the guitar, my fingers get sore, right? Especially for beginners, this is the thing. Your fingers really get sore. And when students tell me this, like my fingers get really sore, I just say like, yeah, it's tough. Unfortunately, the only way through that is by playing more often, and we will toughen up our fingers, right? But in the meantime, it is very uncomfortable. Give yourself rest when you can, right? But it will get better. And in that, I'm saying we're acknowledging that feeling, we're acknowledging the pain, try to mitigate the pain where we can, but ultimately it's going to take pushing through it a little bit to get through it. Or, if you're feeling physical pain in other ways, not to just, I don't want to complain, but I'm, like whatever. It's okay to complain about some things, and it's okay to be in negative states as long as that isn't our default, right? In the next episode, we're going to talk a little bit about that. But we also don't want to be in this toxic positivity state of only pushing down the bad and only focusing on the good. But we want to try to feel and replace negative patterns with ones that kind of serve us, maybe in a more positive way. So we could probably all use a little bit more positivity, but we don't want to fall into the toxic positivity trap.